right, so this is going to be another movie review. This one's called The Crow, 1994. This is going to be another Karate Man recommendation. Giving it 5 out of 5 stars. I love this flick. And I forgot to look for it on YouTube, but I'll put the links in the description if I can find them for both the movie and the trailer, as I usually do for 5 out of 5 star films. Let's see what the movie poster says. Believe in angels. Oh. Brandon Lee is kind of a dark angel. He's all dressed up in leather and lipstick and eyeliner. I did that trick one time in Atherton. I put black eyeliner stuff around my eyes. And then I was taken to the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I disliked. And I wasn't singing along and doing the routine. So I was told to leave. I guess I wasn't cool enough back then in the early 90s. Anyways, The Crow is a 1994 U.S. Gothic superhero film directed by Alex Proyas and written by David J. Shaw and John Shirley, based on the comic of the same name by James O'Barr. It stars Brandon Lee in his final film appearance with Ernie Hudson, Michael Wincott, by Ling. Bai Ling is the reason to watch. We love Bai Ling on this channel. You get to see her arse in this one. She's taking a shower. Sophia Shyness, Lawrence Mason, Michael Massey, Tony Todd, and John Polito in supporting roles. The film follows Eric Draven, a rock musician who is resurrected from the dead to seek vengeance against the gang who murdered him and his fiancée, all the while pursued by a sympathetic police officer. The Ghostbusters dude, Ernie Hudson. He was in Leviathan, The Crow, Airheads. I don't even know if I have the Airheads. In the on my channel as a review, but I'll double check. I'll fix it. If I didn't put his name in the description, I'll fix it. Production on The Crow was struck by tragedy when Lee was fatally wounded by a prop gun during filming. As Lee had finished most of his scenes before his death, the film was completed through script rewrites, a stunt double, and digital effects. After Lee's death, Paramount Pictures opted out of distributing the film, and the rights were picked up by Miramax, who oversaw the film's completion. The film is dedicated to Lee and his fiancée, Elisa Hutton. The Crow opened in theaters in the United States on May 13th, 1994, to positive reviews, a sleeper hit. At the box office, it grossed $94 million on a $23 million budget, and it gained a strong cult following. The success of the film led to a media franchise that includes 3 sequels and a television series, none of which I've seen. The sequels, which mostly featured different characters and none of the original cast members, were unable to match the success of the first film, which is probably why I haven't seen it. It's after 1994. When all these sequels and television shows came about, which is my cutoff year. Anything 1995 and older gets the few and far between treatment on this channel, unless it's a Karate Man recommendation from like 1998. Anyways, We said it was based on The Crow by James O'Barr. Production company Dimension Films, distributed by Miramax Films. Release date May 13th, 1994 in the United States. Running time 102 minutes. That's only because the rolling credits are like 2 songs off the soundtrack. The soundtrack is pretty decent. It's got Helmet. Which is pretty cool. It's got a bunch of industrial music. Maybe some alternative. Grunge. Stone Temple Pilots. I don't know. That's not my favorite Stone Temple Pilots song they put in there. Soundtrack. I'll talk about the soundtrack later, but Pantera performed Poison Ideas as a badge. The Big Empty by Stone Temple Pilots. Okay, we'll get into that later. This is going to take me a while. Because there's a lot of stuff on here from Wikipedia. I mean, a lot of stuff. On Devil's Night in Detroit, Police Sergeant Albrecht surveys the crime scene. That's Ernie Hudson from Ghostbusters. A young woman named Shelley Webster has been raped and gravely wounded. Her fiancé, rock musician Eric Draven, was killed in the attack, having been stabbed, shot, and then thrown from the window of their loft apartment. As he leaves for the hospital with Shelley, Albrecht meets a young girl, Sarah, whom Shelley and Eric look after. Albrecht comforts Sarah when she realizes that Shelley is going to die from her injuries. 1 year later, Sarah visits Shelley and Eric's graves before meeting with Albrecht, who now helps take care of her. Crow lands on Eric's gravestone. The crow taps on it, resurrecting him. Upon returning to his now derelict apartment, Eric experiences flashbacks of his murder when a gang, T-Bird, Tintin, Funboy, and Skank, broke in. What a crazy bunch of names. Only in the early 90s could they make this kind of film. And they attacked him and Shelley due to them protesting forced evictions at their apartment building. It's kind of the situation that I'm in with these greedy owners from New York here. I think I got a phone call from one of them. I saw a phone call from New York while I was at work on Friday afternoon. I just rejected it. I don't want to talk to these people. Anyways, Eric also discovers that any wounds he receives heal immediately. Guided by the crow, with whom he shares a telepathic connection, Eric sets out to avenge his and Shelley's murders. The crow helps Eric locate Tintin, whom Eric stabs to death. Eric next travels to the pawn shop where Tintin had pawned Shelley's engagement ring, forcing the owner, Gideon, to return it. He blows up the shop. Lots of cool explosions in this. Not to mention Bai Ling's arse. She's got a tattoo on her back, and she's supposed to be the sister of this bad guy, T-Bird, but he's got long hair and he snorts a lot of cocaine. Or is it speed? I don't know. He snorts a lot of white powder. And he's got this ridiculous long hair. It looks like girly hair. Anyways, he's got an incestuous relationship with Bai Ling, who's supposedly uh, supposedly his sister, but I think they're having an incestuous relationship. She like pokes out the eyeballs of this white woman with fake breasts. I don't know what's going on. This movie's crazy. Anyways, moving along with the so-called plot, the Brandon Lee is like the anti-hero. He's all dressed up weird and he looks like a goth dude, more than a rock star, but more like a goth dude from the early 90s. He's got long hair and the makeup going and the leather, the tight shirt, the leather pants, and the funky boots from the garbage can. Anyway, he blows up the shop, but he spares Gideon so that he can warn the others. Gideon is badly burned. He's like a child molester pawn shop dude. Eric then tracks down Fun Boy, who is having sex with Sarah's estranged drug addict mother, Darla, who kind of looks like Drew Barrymore look-alike, with bigger breasts, of course. Eric kills him and he confronts Darla, making her realize that Sarah needs her. Darla is a morphine addict. In the meantime, Top Dollar, the crime boss who controls... Oh, this is Top Dollar. I got T-Bird mixed up with Top Dollar. Top Dollar is the having the incestuous relationship with his sister, I think. They're awfully close. Let me put it to you that way. It's like Caligula and his sister kind of thing from I, Claudius. Anyways, the crime boss who controls the street gangs in the city and his lover, half-sister Micah. Oh, half-sister. That's why they don't look alike. They have the same father or something. I don't know. They have become aware of Eric's actions. They kill Gideon after he reports his attack to them. Eric visits Albrecht, explaining who he is. Albrecht tells him that he watched Shelley suffer for 30 hours before dying. Eric touches Albrecht and he feels the pain Shelley felt. Upon leaving Albrecht's apartment, Eric saves Sarah from getting run over by a car, and he gives her a clue to his identity before disappearing. Here we go. Budget, $23 million. Box office, $94 million. Eric kidnaps T-Bird and he kills him in an explosion. I got T-Bird mixed up with Top Dollar. T-Bird and Skank are the two the two speed freaks high on methamphetamines. The next morning, Sarah and her mother began repairing their strange relationship, and Sarah visits Eric at his apartment. Grange, Top Dollar's right-hand man, finds Eric's grave is empty. Top Dollar holds a meeting with his associates where they discuss new plans for their Devil's Nights criminal activities. Eric arrives looking for Skank, and a gunfight erupts. Skank is killed during the melee. Top Dollar, Micah, and Grange escape, and Micah hypnotizes that by killing the crow. Oh, Micah hypothesizes, not hypnotizes. Micah hypothesizes that by killing the crow, Eric will no longer be immortal. And Micah has oversized cleavage going with her corset. I don't. She's wearing a corset or something. Too much makeup for Bai Ling. We liked her in Crank 2. Anyways, Eric, he's my Kevin Costner. Oh, Karate Man's in the chat room. Brandon Lee has so much potential to become the next big action star of the 90s. He was underrated. He pretty much was only being this. He pretty much was only known for being the son of Bruce Lee, not really known for his movies. That's why I didn't put him in this description, because this is the only movie that I saw him in. R.I.P. to the son of a legend. There's a conspiracy that Brandon Lee was purposely murdered on the set of The Crow, or either he got shot by accident, which is my opinion. It's impossible to accidentally leave a live round in a gun. Yeah, unless they were doing methamphetamines themselves on the set, which wouldn't surprise me. This movie coming from 1994. I don't know. My ex-wife, my son's mother, said that Bruce Lee got killed by white people because they didn't want a Chinese movie star or something. I don't. There's all kinds of conspiracies going on. Nobody knows the truth, man. They just make up stuff with Bruce Lee and his son. Brandon Lee is almost as good as his father, Bruce Lee. Yeah, he's kind of a buffed Asian kid from Seattle. Kind of looks like my son. Not his body. My son's a skinny geek, but he's kind of buffed. He looks like my son with a buff body and long hair and makeup. Eric, believing his vengeance is over, gives Sarah Shelley's engagement ring. As Sarah walks home, Grange abducts her, and Grange takes her to an abandoned church where Top Dollar and Mike are waiting. Through the Crow, Eric realizes what has happened, and he goes to rescue her. Grange shoots and wounds the Crow, sapping Eric of his immortality. Micah grabs the wounded Crow, intending to take its mystical power. Bad decision by Ling. Albrecht arrives and he assists Eric shooting. Ghostbusters is there. Shooting and killing Grange before being wounded by Micah. The Crow escapes Micah's grip, and it claws her eyes out, making her fall to her death down the church's bell tower. Bai Ling is gone. And Bai Ling was the reason to watch this. I don't care what Karate Man says. Showdown in Little Tokyo, the one he did with Dolph Lundgren, is another underrated kick-ass 90s action movie. Even Rapid Fire 1992 were amongst his best. Brandon Lee was badass. I mentioned Little Showdown in Little Tokyo on my last review, didn't I? The same crew worked on it. The same actor, but some other guy who was working on the set also worked in Showdown in Little Tokyo. For the last movie I reviewed, which was the Steven Seagal Out for Justice. Wow. I have a good memory. Eric confronts Top Dollar on the roof. Top Dollar admits ultimate responsibility for Eric and Shelley's deaths, having ordered their murder as part of the scheme to take over their apartment building for his criminal activities. Okay. This was a little confusing to me, this so-called plot with the anti-hero, Brandon Bruce Lee, they call him. Anyways, Eric grabs Top Dollar, transferring the 30 hours of pain he absorbed from Albrecht The sensation causes Top Dollar to fall from the roof, and he's impaled on a gargoyle, killing him. We like Gothic churches and gargoyles and things. Pretty cool flick. Sarah accompanies Albrecht to the hospital. And that's pretty much the movie. James O'Barr wrote what would become The Crow as a means to cope with the unexpected death of his fiancée, who was killed by a drunk driver. The first meeting O'Barr had with a major studio was quickly dismissed after the studio's version for the film was a musical with Michael Jackson as the lead. Now that would have been bizarre. Kind of like the Wiz. Anyway, around the time of The Crow's publication, writer John Shirley picked up Angry Angel to Caliber Press, who turned it down due to similarities with The Crow. Shirley sought the comic out, and he decided to adapt it into a film. O'Barr was receptive, and he agreed to workshop the film with Shirley and producer Jeff Most. Why did I say Moist? Turning down a significant offer from New Line Cinema in the process. Well, that would be an interesting New Line Cinema. Fun fact, the guy who plays Top Dollar is actually Michael Wincott, who is Jeff Wincott's brother in real life. He's kind of goofy looking, that Top Dollar dude. He's got long hair, and he's got girly hair, and he's got a 5 o'clock shadow going. I don't know what's up with that, but his hair looks like a girl. What the heck? Anyways, this film is bizarre. It's kind of dark, like Dark City. I don't know why. It reminded me of Dark City, or one of those grindhouse movies. It was kind of a combination of both. It had that comic book feel, but the city looked like Dark City to me. Anyways, I'm just saying, I miss Jennifer Connelly. She was so good in Dark City. I love that flick. You can see her facial hair. She was also good in Phenomena. She's got a little peach fuzz going herself. Anyways, enough about Jennifer Connelly. O'Barr oversaw 3 different script treatments by Shirley and Most before directly collaborating on the first 2 drafts of the screenplay. Shirley penned the 3rd and 4th draft by himself, which awarded him screenplay credit by the Writers Guild of America. Most claimed to have written a substantial proportion of the script, but he was denied credit due to a rule in the WGA which prohibited producers from receiving credit. With the project gaining momentum, Eric Pressman joined the film as producer, and splatterpunk writer David J. Shaw was brought in for the rewrites. Australian filmmaker Alex Proyas, who did Dark City, not coincidentally, and I, Robot, known for his music video and commercial work, was hired to direct the film. So we'll put Alex Proyas in the description for both this and Dark City. Paramount Pictures picked up the distribution rights and slotted an August 1993 release date. River Phoenix, Christian Slater, Johnny Depp, Charlie Sexton, and John Bon Jovi were early considerations for the role of Eric Draven. Shirley and Most pushed for Slater, while Pressman wanted Bon Jovi. Brandon Lee was supposed to play Draven, but O'Barr was unconvinced, fearing he wouldn't be suited for the material. However, Lee won O'Barr over, and he was given the role shortly thereafter. Unfortunate for Brandon Lee, because he ended up dying from a stage prop gun. Lee dropped 20 pounds to portray Draven, and he worked closely with the crew to shape the film. He does look kind of thin, even though he's buffed. He's got the chiseled six-pack abs or whatever they call it. But he does look kind of a svelte figure. Anyways, I shouldn't say that about men. Svelte figure. Lee choreographed his action sequence, performing most of his own stunts and removing a subplot due to its Asian stereotyping. Oh, he doesn't like that because he's son of Bruce Lee. He's going to karate kick an anti-Chinese sign. Rachel Davis, Ernie Hudson, Michael Wincott, which Karate Man mentioned is Jeff Wincott's brother. Bai Ling, the great Bai Ling from Crank 2. Sophia Shanas, Michael Massey, David Patrick Kelly, Tony Todd, and John Polito rounded out the supporting cast. Production began on The Crow in February 1993 in Wilmington, North Carolina, and it was scheduled to last 54 days. On March 31st, 1993, at EUE Screen Gem Studios in Washington, North Carolina, Lee was filming a scene where his character, Eric, is shot. After witnessing the beating and raping of his fiancée, actor Michael Massey's character Fun Boy fires a .44 Magnum Smith & Wesson model 629 revolver at Lee as he walks into the room. A scene filmed 2 weeks before Lee's had called for the same gun to be shown in close-up. Revolvers often use dummy cartridges filled with bullets but no powder or primer. During close-ups, as they look more realistic than blank rounds, which have no bullet, instead of purchasing commercial dummy cartridges, the film's prop crew, hampered by time and money constraints, created their own by pulling the bullets from live rounds, dumping the powder charge, but not the primer, then reinserting the bullets. Witnesses reported that 2 weeks before Lee's death, they saw an unsupervised actor pulling the trigger on the gun while it was loaded with the powderless but primed round. Having not removed the primer would detonate with enough energy to launch a bullet and lodge it in the barrel. In the fatal scene, which called for the revolver to be actually fired at Lee from a distance of 12 to 15 feet, the dummy cartridges were exchanged for blank rounds, which feature a live powder charge and primer but no bullet, thus allowing the gun to be fired without risk of an actual projectile. As the production company had sent the firearms specialist home early, responsibility for the guns was given to a prop assistant who was unaware of the rule for inspecting all firearms before and after any handling. Well, they cut corners. Therefore, the barrel was not checked for obstructions when the time came to load it with the blank round. I guess they didn't believe in safety procedures back in 1994. Since the bullet from the dummy round was already trapped in the barrel, this caused the .44 Magnum bullet to be fired out of the barrel with virtually the same force as if the gun had been loaded with a live round and struck Lee in the abdomen, mortally wounding him. Sounds like some kind of crazy Twilight Zone movie accident or something. After Lee's death, the producers were faced with the decision of whether or not to continue with the film. Lee had completed most of his scenes for the film, and he was scheduled to shoot for only 3 more days. The rest of the cast and crew, except for Ernie Hudson, whose brother-in-law had just died, stayed in Wilmington. Yeah, I will add his name in the description box. If I can find those other 2 movies you mentioned, Showdown in Little Tokyo and Rapid Fire. I started investigating Tubi and Amazon Prime, so I'm starting to dab a little bit into the more diverse selection of streaming services as my cutoff for receiving Netflix DVDs rapidly approaches. There's the crow. Anyways, Paramount Pictures, which was initially interested in distributing The Crow theatrically, originally a direct-to-video feature, opted out of involvement due to delays in filming and some controversy over the violent content being appropriate given Lee's death. Yeah, it's kind of a foreshadowing because Lee keeps staring at his own grave and his girlfriend's grave. It's kind of creepy, man, this movie. However, Miramax picked it up with the intention of releasing it in theaters, and they injected a further $8 million to complete the production, taking its budget to approximately $23 million, which was a lot of money back in 1994. The cast and crew then took a break from script rewrites of the flashback scenes that had yet to be completed. The script was rewritten by Wallen Green, Terry Hayes, Renee Balcher, and Michael S. Chernuchin, adding narration and new scenes. Lee's stunt double, Chad Stahelski, was used as a stand-in, and digital face replacement was used to superimpose Lee's face onto the head of the double. The beginning of the movie, which had not been finished, was rewritten, and the apartment scene remade using computer graphics from an earlier scene of Lee. A character from the original comic book called Skull Cowboy was originally planned to be part of the adaptation, and he even had scenes filmed. Skull Cowboy even had scenes filmed. He acted as a guide for Eric Draven between the worlds of the dead and the living. He was set to be played by Michael Berryman from The Hills Have Eyes. But the role was cut from the film due to Lee's death. O'Barr later remarked that losing Lee was like losing his fiancée all over again, and he regretted ever writing the comic in the first place. The Crow was a sleeper hit at the box office. The film opened at number 1 in the U.S. in 1,573 theaters with $11,774,332 and averaging $7,485 per theater. Some industry sources believe that Miramax overstated the weekend gross by as much as $1 million. The film ultimately grossed $50,693,129 in the US and Canada and $43 million internationally for a worldwide total of $93.7 million against its budget of $23 million. Now that is super profit. It ranked at number 24 for all films released in the US in 1984, the 24th highest grossing film worldwide for 1984, and number 10 for R-rated films released that year. They didn't hire the prop guys. They let the production assistant who goes and buys donuts and coffee. They let the production assistant handle the guns. Anyways, I'm just responding. Always thought Brandon Lee looks exactly like Mark Descar. I can't even pronounce that. Decascos. I guess Karate Man's talking about the Filipino kickboxer dude. Anyways, overseas in Europe, the film grossed £1,245,403 in the UK, where it was 18 rated, and sold 4,604,115 tickets in France, Germany, Italy, and Spain. In Seoul, South Korea, it sold 83,126 tickets. The Crow has a approval rating of 84% on Rotten Tomatoes based on 61 reviews and an average rating of 7.1 out of 10. The critical consensus states, filled with style and dark, lurid energy. The Crow is an action-packed visual feast that also has a soul in the performance of the late Brandon Lee. The film also has a score of 71 out of 100 on Metacritic, based on 14 critics, including generally favorable reviews. So for once, we agree with Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes, but we're actually rating it higher, 5 out of 5 stars. Anyways, Lee's death was alleged to have a melancholic effect on viewers. Desson Howe of the Washington Post wrote that Lee haunts every frame, and James Berardinelli called the film a cause of art imitating death, and the specter will always hang over the Crow. Both Bernadelli and Howe called it an appropriate epitaph to Lee, and Ebert stated that not only was this Lee's best film, but it was better than any of his father's. Now that's quite a compliment. Anyways, I guess they really like this Brandon Lee guy, the critics. Critics generally thought this would have been a breakthrough film for Lee, although Bernardinelli disagreed. The changes made to the film after Lee's death were noted by reviewers, most of whom saw them as an improvement. Howe said that it had been transformed into something compelling. Bernardinelli, although terming it a genre film, said that it had become more mainstream because of the changes. The film was widely compared to other films, including Tim Burton's Batman movies and Ridley Scott's Blade Runner. I thought it looked more like Dark City. I don't know. That's just me. Critics described The Crow as a darker film than the others. It did have that comic book element, though. Ebert called it a grungier and more forbidding story than those of Batman and Blade Runner, and Todd McCarthy of Variety wrote that the generic inner city of Detroit portrayed in The Crow makes Gotham City look like Emerald City. It is dark and dreary. It looks like San Francisco nowadays. While the plot and characterization were found to be lacking, these faults were considered to be overcome by the action and visual style. The cinematography by Dariusz Wolski and the production design by Alex McDowell were also praised. The cityscape, designed by McDowell and the production team, was described by McCarthy as rendered imaginatively. The film's comic book origins were noted, and even Ebert called it the best version of the comic book universe he'd seen. Siskel and Ebert are in love with this. They want to marry this movie. Anyways, McCarthy agreed, calling it one of the most effective live actioners ever derived from a comic strip. Critics felt that the soundtrack complemented this visual style, calling it blistery, edgy, and boisterous. I'm a fan of Helmet. I'm not too big into industrial music, Nine Inch Nails, but okay, it's 1994. You can expect some industrial music in there. Anyways, with all that gothic makeup. Graham Revel was praised for his moody score, and Howe said that it drapes the story in a postmodern pall. Negative reviews of the film were generally similar in theme to the positive ones, but said that interesting and okay special effects did not make up for the superficial plot, badly written. Is there even a plot in this? Badly written screenplay and one-dimensional characters. Well, Brandon Lee likes to play guitar on the roof of his former apartment building. Anyways, The Crow is mentioned in Empire's 2008 list of the 500 greatest movies of all time and is ranked at number 468. It has since become a cult film. We like cult films on this channel. Professional wrestler Sting drew inspiration from the movie for his Crow character. Metalcore band. What is metalcore? I thought it was called industrial back in the 90s. Anyways, metalcore band Nine Inch Nails created a song based on the Crow called A Grave Mistake, which is featured on their 2018 album, The Silver Screen. The character Dwight Schrute from the U.S. The Office says his all-time favorite movie is The Crow in season 2, episode 4 of The Fire. In the Halloween episode of the adult animated series The Venture Brothers, entitled A Very Venture Halloween, the character Dermot Fichtel, voiced by Doc Hammer, dresses up as the Crow, and he makes a reference to Brandon Lee's death. American rapper Lil Uzi Vert referenced the Crow character on their new song Suicide Doors from the third album Pink Tape. It's got all these accolades, MTV awards, top 10, top 12 lists, whatever. I'm not going to go through all those. The original soundtrack for the album The Crow features songs from the film and it was a chart-topping album, included work by The Cure. I forgot to put them in the description. Their song Burn became the film's main theme. The Jesus and the Mary Chain, Rage Against the Machine, and Helmet, among many others. It's like the the soundtrack could have been the radio station. What's that Sirius radio station that does all the alternative? Yeah, it could have been like that. Anyway, Peter Hook's memoir, Substance Inside New Order, Hook relates that New Order were approached to produce the soundtrack for the film with a cover of Love Will Tear Us Apart. Their hit is Joy Division, citing parallels between Eric's resurrection and New Order's formation after the suicide of Joy Division frontman Ian Curtis. However, New Order frontman Bernard Summer declined, stating they were too busy with their album Republic to commit to another project. James O'Barr, creator of the original comic book series, was a big fan of Joy Division, and he had named the characters Sergeant Albrecht and Captain Hook after bandmates Sumner, who was also known as Bernard Albrecht early in his career, and Hook. Several groups contributed covers. Nine Inch Nails rendered Joy Division's Dead Souls. Rollins Band covered Suicides, Ghost Rider, and Pantera performed Poison IDs, The Badge? Poison Ideas, the U.S. punk rock band formed in Portland, Oregon in 1980. What's behind the badge? The song Empty was not the Stone Temple Pilots' original choice for the soundtrack. They first recorded a version of Only Dying, which they had recorded earlier as Mighty Joe Young in demo form, but it was replaced following Lee's death. The band's Medicine and My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult make cameo appearances in the film on stage in the nightclub before Top Dollar's headquarters. That nightclub looks like a KM FDM concert from the early 90s. The score consists of original, mostly orchestral music with some electronic and guitar elements written for the film by Graham Ravel. In 1996, a sequel was released called The Crow City of Angels. In this film, Vincent Perez plays Ash Corbin, who, along with his son Danny, is killed by criminals. Ash is resurrected as a new Crow. The character of Sarah Moore, now played by Mia Kirshner, reappears in the film, and she assists Ash The film also features Iggy Pop, who, according to the booklet insert for the film's soundtrack, was the producer's first choice for Fun Boy in the first Crow movie, but he was unable to commit due to his recording schedule. In addition, it was also featured the final appearance of Thai Trang. It was the original Yellow Ranger on the television series Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. We like Thai Trang. The band Deltones can also be seen playing live in a festival scene. The band Deftones, excuse me, why did I say Deltones? The band Deftones can be seen playing live in a festival scene, and they contributed the song Teething to the soundtrack. The film received mostly negative reviews. The Crow Stairway to Heaven was a 1998 Canadian television series produced by Bryce Zabel, starring Mark Dacascos. Karate Man was talking about how Brandon Lee looks exactly like Mark Dacascos. He was in the Crow Stairway to Heaven Canadian television series. Mark Dacascos in the lead role as Eric Draven, originally played by Brandon Lee. What a coincidence, eh, Karate Man? You were just talking about him, and he was in the Crow television show. Anyways, the third film, The Crow Salvation, was released in 2000, directed by Bharat Nalluri. It stars Eric Mabius, Kirsten Dunst, Fred Ward, Jodie Lynn O'Keefe, and where was I? William Atherton. It is loosely based on Pop Z. Bright's naval. It is loosely based on Pop Z. Bright's novel, The Lazarus Heart. After its distributor canceled the intended theatrical release due to The Crow City of Angels' negative critical reception, The Crow Salvation was released straight to video with mixed reviews. The fourth film, The Crow Wicked Prayer, was released in 2005, directed by Lance Munguia. It stars Edward Furlong, David Boreanaz, Tara Reid, Tito Ortiz, Dennis Hopper, Emmanuel Chiriqui, and Danny Trejo. We're just talking about Machete in the last review. It was inspired by Norman Partridge's novel of the same title. It had a one-week theatrical premiere on June 3rd, 2005 at AMC Pacific Place Theater in Seattle, Washington, before being released to video on July 19th, 2005. Like the other sequels, it had a poor critical reception, and it was considered the worst of the four films. I want to see The Crow Wicked Prayer. The Crow 2037 was a planned sequel written and scheduled to be directed by Rob Zombie in the late 90s. However, it was never made. On April 1st, 2022, a new attempt at a remake was announced by The Hollywood Reporter, with Bill Skarsgård set to star as Draven, Rupert Sanders directing, and Edward R. Pressman and Malcolm Gray co-producing. Days later, the site also reported that FKA Twigs had been cast as Draven's fiancée. In July 2022, production on the remake was reportedly underway in Prague, Czech Republic. By August 26, 2022, Johnny Houston was cast in an undisclosed role. On September 16, 2022, the film wrapped production. The Crow was first released on VHS and Laserdisc multiple times between 1994 and 1998, in addition to the widescreen DVD on February 3rd, 1998. The two-disc DVD was released on March 20th, 2001, which is what I have here, Netflix, Disc 1. Of course, they never give me Disc 2 on Netflix. They used to do that, but not anymore. It was part of the Miramax Dimension Collector series. On October 8th, 2011, The Crow was released on Blu-ray and Lionsgate Pictures, which also re-released the DVD format on August 17, 2012. In Japan, the movie was remastered in 4K for a special edition in 2016, although the film's final resolution was capped at 1080p. As of January 2023, a 4K release, digital physical, has yet to be announced. Edward Furlong, who played the Crow in the fourth one, played John Connor in Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and he was only 14. He was another actor who was on drugs. I think all of them were on drugs in 1994. Anyways, I got to look up Showdown in Little Tokyo. And what else? Rapid Fire. Okay, I'll see if I can find those. I'm not going to look up the fourth Crow. But which Drive 1997? He was okay. Mark DeCassos was the other underrated half Asian martial artist who was a villain in American Samurai. I remember him also Drive, which you also reviewed. Yeah, I've reviewed so many Karate Man movies. It's not even funny. Edward Furlong, who played the Crow in the fourth one, played John O'Connor. we already mentioned that. That's a nice little tidbit. Okay. Well, I've got two movies to add. I'm not going to add the fourth Crow just because I'm not that interested in it. I am interested, but I'm not that interested. Which martial artists do you prefer? Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, Jet Li, Philip Ree, Brandon Lee, Don the Dragon Wilson, or Mark DeCascos? I'll go with it's a toss-up between Philip Ree and Don the Dragon Wilson. I'll go with Don the Dragon Wilson. We like Don the Dragon Wilson on this channel. Even the fourth Scorpion King movie, where he's in it for 5 minutes. Don the Dragon Wilson. All right. Well, that's the end of my review. I'm up over 53 minutes. I read the entire Wikipedia page. I chatted with Karate Man, which took me forever. And I just closed the window that I hold. Showdown. Okay, there we go. Okay. You should add Brandon Lee's name in the description box. He would be proud from the above. Okay. I might do that if I can find these other two movies, Showdown, Little Tokyo, and Rapid Fire. I'm going to look for it. Thanks, Karate Man. Laters.